Good evening. It's Tuesday. It's just after 9 o'clock. And as you can see, we're slightly short staffed tonight. For some reason, the English and the Welsh contingent aren't available tonight. I can't think possibly why.
Yeah.
Although I have seen the scores, I think somebody will be crying into their beer anyway. So,
But yes, guys, it is UK Cowboys time. So here we are. It's the Scottish dual factor right here. We are missing Graham from that perspective, but as you can see, it's just me and Lauren here tonight, and we are going to go over the post-game reaction over the New York Giants, and yeah, and just kind of gain our overall thoughts before we lead into the pre-game show for Thursday. So, how are we, man?
not too bad. Nice long weekend. A bit strange without proper football for us to watch on
On a
Sunday. I
Sunday,
mean,
yeah.
anything with a an actual interest in it. But it was good watching some of the games, knowing there was no pressure on it. So
Absolutely, you can actually just sit back and chill, and that's it. And I believe we actually got a wee update regards to that same group when we were just talking about England and Wales. There is that DJ Dog just mentioned that USA have won against Iran 1-0, which is
yeah,
excellent because that means when I'm in the States, I can witness the last 16 and just watch the game with my friends over there. So that'll be quite an experience. So I'm
yeah,
really looking forward to that now. So well done to America. Well done.
yep. They now go on to face the Netherlands, according to what I'm reading. So it's
Oh,
going to be a
that's a
tough
tough,
conquest for them.
tough game, but what more can you want for the Americans? You won against a really top opposition, and Holland have always been top. But we're not here to talk about the World Cup. Obviously, like we said, we're here to talk about the post game reaction. It's been 5 days since the game, and we want to kind of just we've managed to gain our thoughts. A lot of time to recover from the Thanksgiving dinner. I've maybe put on a couple of pounds since then. So yes, so the Cowboys won 28-20 at home on Thanksgiving. What's your general thoughts about the game there, Lon?
I, it seems strange saying this, but it's a game of two halves. That first half, obviously, everything that could go wrong seemed to go wrong. We were back to gambling on going for it on fourth down. Dak threw two picks, which slightly uncharacteristic for him. And then the Jonas Brothers came out, and everybody, obviously that gave Mike McCarthy and co an extra couple of minutes to light a fire underneath both the offense and the defense, and we came out firing in the second half. So,
yeah, I mean, I generally kind of feel like it felt like, well, for me, from what I was watching, it kind of felt like we slumped back into the Green Bay game, but the second half is like that's what we should have did, like we did against Minnesota. So it was like those two games, but compressed into the one game in two halves. That's what it kind of felt like. So,
yeah.
But yes, we'll dive more into the actual game itself in a second, but we'll go straight into the news and updates. So, as well, we just saw one of the comments that, as you may have noticed, is the Odell Beckham Jr. airport situation. He was kind of dozing on and off the plane, got asked to leave the plane, etc., etc. I really don't know what to make of this, but in a way, it's going to. I don't know about you, Lauren, but I think it is going to affect his cost factor even more now. We might actually get him cheaper if that's the case, if we were to bring him in, because there is that potential off the field. Well, would you even call it off the field? Really? Do you think it's been blown out of proportion? Really?
I think it has, to be honest, because he's not other than being, they removed everybody off the plane because he was non-cooperative. He then had to make other arrangements to fly back to Los Angeles, I think, from Miami.
Yeah.
But there's no leaked videotapes or mobile phone footage of him being abusive or anything like that, other than saying he didn't want to put his seatbelt on or he wasn't complying with the stewardess is asking him to put the seatbelt on.
Yeah,
Um,
it does sound a little bit skeptical that like because everybody knows that's the golden rule when you're on a flight, pre-departure, etc. You always put on your seatbelt, and you take your seatbelt off once the obviously the light comes on or comes off, whatever, and that, and you can do as you wish, walk about the plane, whatever. But I've seen other stories where it was more to do with the staff. They were a bit on a power trip and stuff like that. Whether that's true or not, we don't know because we can see it from Odell's point of view on Twitter. He's like, this is just taken way out of proportion here. So, but
yeah,
either way, I'm not particularly phased by it as such. I would still take Odell Beckham on board because I still think he still has a lot to offer, to kind of give, like a CD Lamb, Michael Gallup, just like some knowledge, experience, like tools to the trade, so to speak. I still would take him in.
yeah, I would as well. I mean, again, as there's no footage showing him being abusive or anything like that, it's all a case of he said, she said sort of thing.
Yeah.
There's you got to give him the benefit of the doubt. And by all accounts, it hasn't waned people's interest. I think he's meeting with the Giants at the end of this week. He's meeting with us next Monday after we've
Yep. Yep. On the
played the
fifth.
Colts.
Yep. On the fifth, we're meeting him
And
Monday morning.
I think there's a couple of other teams. I think the Chiefs are still interested actually. So
I don't think the Chiefs would. I don't think they're desperate for it. I think there was one other team. I can't remember who it was. I think it was the Bills actually. I think
mm,
the Bills are kind of came out of the speculation rumor mill as well. So, but either way, it's going to be very interesting to see what materializes. Whether Odell Beckham wants to go to a AFC team, might be something different for him. He might want to challenge himself in a different conference. That could be a selling point for him, perhaps. But you have to kind of look to like, does he really want to go back to New York? I don't think so. The way how things are kind of panning out for New York right now, if he wants to kind of go there and try and win a nice Super Bowl, like, and I'm not trying to play favoritism here at all. I do tend to think that you would probably have a more better successful chance with us than they would with New York as things stand right now.
yeah, yeah, I certainly think so. I mean, I think we've got the defense that we only need the offense to step up a little bit more and have. Obviously, we've got the power running game, but we need to have the passing game to complement that. So, because there are certain teams that are tooling up their defensive lines to hopefully stop the run a bit better, and obviously we've got one of them that's leading our division at the moment. They seem to be signing anybody under the sun that can run block. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to think. So, what else do we have in the news front, Lauren? Do we have anything else reported?
no, nothing really. We came out relatively injury free. Um, there was talk that Mike McCarthy was going to do everything virtually on Monday, but everybody seems to have been recovering from this flu virus that's been going round. So they actually had an in-person meeting with everybody. Obviously, being able to relax for the entire weekend has helped people recuperate. And hopefully everybody's back to scratch, and we'll see how everybody goes. The one sort of small injury, Jaron Curse, I believe, separated the shoulder slightly in the game on Thursday night. Um, he managed to pop it back into place. There's obviously the soreness that's involved with that, so he'll likely be limited this week, but have every chance that he'll get back on the field.
I have to laugh at this comment for our one of our regular viewers, DG Dogs. Like, if we do sign Odell Beckham, there is like there's chances, like, because you know what, these news outlets, especially a company like TMZ, like they will be like, they'll, 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 like, they'll like they'll be sent a video and they'll post it right after get goals just to kind of spark up the controversy type of thing. And they've like, and it's not the first time they're notorious for that. So it'd be very interesting to see what does happen that with Beckham. But in terms of the injury report, I'm glad we came the majority of us came unscathed. So, but yeah, very little kind of other than the whole Beckham news. Good to know that like you said there, very little in terms of the injury reports coming after the game, etc. I know, and DJ Dog once again make the comments that Tyron and maybe Washington might start their practice window from injury reserve this week. So this is great news when you think about it. It just adds more players to the system and stuff like that. How like, and that's another interesting thing. I was just kind of thinking, it's like, well, how do we fit in Tyron Smith now? The way how the continuity of our offensive line are doing right now.
Yeah, and I think, well, obviously the writing's been on the wall that, the last couple of weeks, Tyler Smith has been starting at left tackle, but then he's switched into guard when the game's been out of reach of the opposition.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason Peters come in. That would suggest that Jason Peters will end up being the swing tackle. Tyron Smith probably comes in and resumes his role. Little bit slightly concerning about that. I think Tyler Smith was off his game on Thursday night in a lot of instances. In fact, on Dak's second interception, Tyler Smith was getting pushed back into Dak, and I don't think he was able to follow through on the ball correctly. It still made its way to CD Lamb, but then CD Lamb coughed it up. So, maybe if the ball had been slightly better positioned, Dak could have got that pass off better, and CD Lamb would have made the catch. But you certainly can't complain about how CD Lamb's coming on. If Washington, I think it's still a waiting game to see if we're still in with a shot with a signing OBJ. Then I don't, unless somebody else goes down, I don't see you. I think Washington's a complete write-off this year, to be honest.
Yeah, I tend to agree, and me personally, I don't think Jalen Tolbert is not ready for it as well. I really don't.
No,
I think he still has a lot to do like even though he's on part of this roster, but I can see him falling down the pecking order if we do bring OBJ into the roster. So, but as you can see there at the bottom of the screen, guys, some news over the updates. We did have the tight end whack-a-mole Salvation Army bucket, which was probably one of the best touchdown celebrations I've seen for a long time. Not very creative from the tight ends. They kind of took that upon what Ezekiel Elliott did back in, was it 2019, 2018?
Yeah, 2016, I think it was the
2016.
first year that they did that.
So
And then, obviously there was a couple of years later when Dak scored the touchdown, Zeke lifted him in and what have you. So that we're just building on it year on year out. And amazingly, I think it's incredible that we didn't get the 15-yard penalty that normally happens, and it remains to be seen whether there's going to be, these guys are going to get FedEx notices this week saying that X has been deducted off your salary this week.
yeah. Yeah, so with that being said, we will now just jump straight into the offense now, guys. So let us just do that. So like we mentioned, the Dallas Cowboys won 28-20. Dak Prescott went for 261 yards, with 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 0 sacks, and it was 21 for 30 with an average of 8.7 yards and a rating of a quarterback rating of 72.1. How would you feel Dak performed overall in that game, Lon?
I think generally he performed quite well. I mean, the two interceptions in the first half. I mean, obviously he thought that Thibodeau had jumped offside and thought he had a free play. for some reasons the refs didn't call it, but then the refs called stupid penalties elsewhere. So I think
Yeah.
all of that balanced out. Um, I think there was obviously there was some sort of miscommunication between Gallup and Dak on that one because
Hmm.
Gallup kept running and Dak threw it towards the sideline, but the third string defensive back made an excellent play on it and managed to snag it before going out of bounds. As I said, the second interception, he didn't get the ball off properly, and CD Lamb got hit as he was catching the ball and bounced it up into the air, and easy snag as well. Other
Yeah.
than that, I mean, second half obviously came off strong. I think two passes in the second half hit the ground. The rest were all caught. And we obviously got two scores off through the air as well. So
Yeah.
um,
And I'm just kind of looking in terms of how we did for overall offense. Our Russian offense was 169 yards on 39 carries, and our wide receivers was 261 yards with 21 total receptions. So,
yeah,
so overall, so that's what 60 offensive snaps that were successful, and we kind of accumulated over. Was it? Trying to do quick math here. So two, three, what, 430? Yeah, 430
yep,
yards total offense. So when you kind of put that in perspective, that's actually a really good, successful offense, gaining those amount of yards against a defensive front like the Giants have right now. Like
yep.
with like so you just mentioned Thibodeau and is it Dexter Lawrence as well? Like he
Dex,
caused
yeah,
and he caused us quite a few wee issues at the early start of the game as well. So but we can't complain when you kind of put in that perspective. We managed to we got the job done, and I think the only downfall I thought was we kind of shot ourselves in the foot when it came to penalties, and obviously with Dak with the interceptions,
yeah,
it seemed like the game should never have been as close that it should have been.
yeah. I think you know, as I say, that first drive there was a strange call that you get down to second and one. And you go two straight passes. I mean, and then you go for it on fourth down as well. And everybody knows that you're going to be teeing up for an easy run. And fair play to the Giants, they defended it well. The Giants obviously had a couple of guys that also had personal business as well. You had Jalen Smith, you had Jihad Ward, and they both got themselves on the stat sheet and got noticed a few times. So, um,
Well, Jalen Smith got noticed for the wrong reasons that game. So, in case anyone's not seen or seen the video clip that's been shared all over social media right now of Jalen Smith pretending that he's like Shawn Michaels or Jeff Hardy in the WWE going in for an elbow drop. I honestly don't know what the hell he's doing. But here's this crazy thing. He was probably likely awarded an assisted tackle for that.
yeah,
And 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 this is not like I'm not trying to criticize Jalen Smith too much from the Giants' point of view, but that's what he did all the time at Dallas. It was those type of things where he would just come in last minute and just maybe touch the player it was down, and that counts as assisted tackle. So the whole stat line of like, oh, he like number of tackles, yada yada yada. Why we're getting rid of our leading tackle, but when you really look into the actual finer,
yeah,
the actual tape of it, it's like it kind of makes no sense in that
yeah.
retrospective.
That last season that he had. Breaking news from Mike: Terrell Basham's just been waived.
Oh, so
So
yeah, breaking news, folks. So yes, Terrell Basham has
that's
been waived. That is a bit of
uh,
a. I don't know what to make of that. I'm not particularly thrilled about that, if I'm being honest.
no.
Uh,
I wonder if the plan is to bring Tack
McKinley,
McKinley up.
possibly.
um, which they actually did activate him, but because certain guys managed to get back from the illness that had been going around on the Saturday, he wasn't actually used. So he reverts back down to the practice squad this week. Um, But yeah, that's certainly a bit of an interesting development because obviously we got rid of Tristan Hill because Basham was coming back from injured reserve. Um, so it's a bit of a shame that it's not panned out the way we thought it
Yeah,
was going to be. But wish him all the best.
yeah. So I'll just bring that down at the bottom of the screen there. So as you can see, Basham's been waived by the Cowboys. But yeah, so well, we can only just say we wish him all the best in his future and stuff like that. Wherever he may line up, I'm sure there'll be other teams in the NFL will look to try and snap him up shortly. Maybe not this season, but definitely going forward for next season for sure. But going back to the offense, just looking at our rushing stats here. Ezekiel Elliott, 16 carries, 92 yards, averaging 5.8 with one touchdown, with his longest being 22 yards. He had a fantastic game.
He did, and you could tell that the Giants were actually worried about the previous form of Tony Pollard,
Yeah,
so they were actually gearing up to stop Tony Pollard.
and
And
this kind
Zeke,
of and this kind of comes to show it really is a 1-2 punch combination that we have. It's like if you worry about one of our running backs, then the other one is going to fit right in and give you a whole different perspective of how to defend the run. And we know that Zeke and Pollard are two completely different types of backs. So if you're trying to defend for one type of running back, then you're going to have to readjust like that
yep,
for the other. So, and that's what seemed to have happened. So Zeke was managed to get in the inside run really, really effectively. But speaking about Pollard, he still managed to, like, even though he had more carries, 18 carries, but averaged 60 yards. Gained 60 yards with an average of 3.3, and his longest being a 13-yard gain. So even still, it's still okay. But when you total
yep,
all up, 169 total rushing yards. So we had 11 from CD Lamb, 4 rushing yards from Dak Prescott, and 2 rushing yards from Mr. Peyton Hendershot, who got his first touchdown. So from the old jet sweep motion. So
yep,
that was
yep.
it was good to see. It was a day of the tight ends essentially as well.
Yeah, because you had all four tight ends on that play as well. So, there was no wide receivers on the pitch at that point in time. So, it was always going to be a run play, but they did enough to disguise it as well. And it was just a brilliant call. And then obviously it led to the whack-a-mole. And this
Yeah,
this tight end group are actually, they truly are a band of brothers. The job that Wonder Wells has done with these guys, we're getting major, you
production
know,
from them. Yeah,
production from two rookies, both of whom weren't in the top 100. They were latter end of the draft and undrafted free agent. Um, you're even seeing things from Sean McKeon, who was a street free agent a couple of years ago as well.
that's right. Yep, I
Um,
think it was
y-
2020. We brought him in
yeah,
2020.
yeah,
Yep.
2020. So
Yeah, so I'm just looking at in terms of like our tight ends. So Ferguson, reception wise, it was 57 yards, averaging only 3 receptions and averaging 19 yards. And
yeah, and one hurdle as well.
that was just a guy of his size, was he like 6'5", and he managed to elevate himself that high to
Yeah.
leap over that secondary player. Oh, that was beautiful to watch. Then you
And then
got
went in like a missile when he knew he was going down as well. He went in like a missile on the guy that was going to tackle him as well. So still
yeah.
managed to get another couple of yards as well.
Yeah, that's the one thing I really like about Ferguson is like he'll dip the shoulder down to try and get those extra dirty yards and just keep running the feet. So that's what I like about him. Really, and this is what I was really happy about when we drafted him. And not to mention as well, like Dalton Schultz, after coming back from injury, etc. We even though he's on the franchise tag right now, but that performance from Schultz is what we need from him right now going forward to the latter part of the season, second half of this season now. Like, we definitely need as much options available for Dak to really open up the board, open up the field, and get the ball moving up to the end zone. So I'm really happy for Dalton. So even though stats wise is not that much, but the plays that he did made, they were impactful, and he got 2 touchdowns out of it. So he was like 31 yards, averaging 7.8, and only got four targets for four recorded receptions, so 4 for 4 for Dalton. So you cannot complain about how our tight ends were operating through that whole game. So I'm like, again, we can't complain. It was a good performance from the offense.
Yeah, and I mean, you saw as well, CD Lamb and Michael Gallup made some fantastic catches as well. I mean, obviously, CD Lamb's arm was practically in the New York Giants defensive guy's pocket half the time, or he's been held half the time and having to make the one-handed catches. Um, he was very unlucky not to get the touchdown reception as well, but then that would have taken away Hendershot's 1 yard
Yep.
run. Um, the rules, unfortunately, do state that if CD Lamb had actually just managed to keep the toes down, then that would have been a touchdown. But because the whole foot came down,
Well,
that's the ruling with it.
there is that one frame where his feet are definitely inside. I think it's just one of those ones. It's so hard to overturn. They
Yeah,
can't, like, if they ruled it as a touchdown, then they challenged or reviewed it, it would still remain. It'd be still recorded as a touchdown. It's just unfortunate.
yeah,
It's just one of those ones. It's so fine line, but for me, I thought it was a touchdown personally. But
yeah.
being
It's
biased,
undisputable evidence is the case that you need,
and it
and
needs to be
you just
it,
couldn't.
it needs to be absolutely clear cut. So even though if he may have been like a more half an inch inside the end zone with that heel not even on the line of the white line, that might have made a hell of a difference. But I just want to flag this up. I've got the offensive statistics up here right now, and if there's one thing as Cowboys fans we're being very frustrated in general is our red zone offense. This was
Yep.
a fantastic turnaround when you really think about it. We were 4 for 4 in the red zone today. Not today,
Yeah.
back on Thursday. Like, I mean, Kellen Moore managed to get the red zone offense clicking as we needed to, especially in that second half. That first half, well, going from the second quarter onwards, we managed to get the ball clicking. So, we're starting to kind of develop more, but it feels like that first half we was just getting a little bit too cute. But second half it's like, okay, right, let's just refocus. Did what we did against Minnesota, and just keep running the ball and just be more simplistic when it comes to our approach, and it showed that.
Yeah, completely agree with you, mate.
Yeah.
And I mean, even the other telling statistic there, we were 7 of 11 on third down as well. Third, in the games where we have looked terrible this year, third down has been a key factor where we've been a third. We've been like 3 of 11 or something stupid like that. Um, this time round, we're on the positive side of the 50%.
Mhm.
Which obviously is ahead of the sort of league average that you would normally have for third down conversions. So um, that's looking positive as well. And it's just ironing out the little mistakes, the penalties that shot ourselves in the foot. But then I think same as last year on Thanksgiving. The refs came out to make a name for themselves as well.
Yeah,
Um,
it seems to be an ongoing. I've seen so many conspiracy theories now online when it comes to the officiating, not just for the Cowboys, just in general. I don't know if you may have seen this one, but someone independently who's not a Cowboys fan made one of those YouTube short videos, like basically think it's all down to Vegas odds. It's all down to the bookmakers. It's where these ridiculous calls because it was something to do with it. It sounds so far fetched, but it's like, you know what? I can't actually disagree with the guy. Makes a kind of a fair point, but it's so out there. You can't. It's like, nah, surely not. But anyway,
yep.
but one thing I will say, and I wanted to leave this one to last, and I've well kind of been slaughtered by the comments right now that we've not mentioned this individual yet was Mr. CD Lamb. How did he do?
Oh, I mean, he is turning into becoming this number one receiver that we're needing to. And he showed up big style with some of the catches that he was making. Um, you know, and it's all you can really ask for him. He was making the plays, he was moving the chains, and he wasn't. Yeah, he was standing there and he was signalling first down, but he's not making a big thing of it. He's just going about his job. He's getting back to the huddle, and you know, not killing us with, if he did something brash for getting a first down, that would be deemed as taunting or something like that, and you
Yeah.
put us back on the back foot. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, so just for anyone who's not aware, so CD Lamb was 6 receptions, going for 106 yards with 17.7 average. His longest reception was 25 yards, and he was given he was targeted 11 times and got six out of those 11. But I agree that CD he is slowly becoming that wide receiver number one. But me personally, I thought the guy that actually looked more of a wide receiver number one in terms of his powerful stature, his ability to get the ball, even though he had 5 receptions, was Michael Gallup. He made some really big, impactful plays in that game. Like,
yeah,
even though it was only 63 yards, his longest was 25 also, and he caught and an average of 12.6. But some of the plays, it's like there would have been no way he should have caught that. But then again, CD Lamb got that catch right behind his head. Well, kind of. It was weird how he caught it, but it was basically the backhand type of. You know the play I'm talking about, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep. So, but I felt like Gallup and Lamb played very synchronized in the game. Obviously, not in that first quarter, some parts of the second quarter, but in that second half, it was a whole completely different team. Um, so again, we can't really necessarily complain anything about how we transformed ourselves. And again, I think I credit to our coaches. They were probably not happy how we performed in that first half. Came back and we went out and won the game. And you could argue, maybe from the defensive point of view, we may put the foot off the gas a little bit because we were that a little bit ahead in the fourth. But the scoreline kind of is like we're still the right deserving winners of that game. I just noticed, Chris. Yes, I am coming to Texas on Thursday, my friends. So I will definitely hook you up when I'm over, my friend.
yeah,
Um, so let's just quickly go through the comments before we move on to the offense. So Labarski is saying the tight ends are starting to be recognized nationally too. Been seeing talks about them on the big networks. Um, Give Schultz a Super Bowl ring as a parting gift. We would love that. We would love just a Super Bowl in general. Um, eh, First TD by Schultz came in the third and goal line from the 15-yard line. Um, Labar's just saying I loved feeding the ball to Gab. I hope that was him I'm back game. Yeah, I think that was his I'm back game. I think we're just kind of waiting for him to kind of get more points on the board. But then again, I think just how he performed in terms of keeping the ball moving and like he was just so physical out there.
yeah.
Uh,
And I mean, obviously, thinking early on in the was it Green Bay game, he'd come up lame as well. So
mhm.
you were wondering if he was going to sort of favour that leg as well. But again, he wasn't showing any signs of it in the Giants game. He was leaping tall for balls.
Yeah,
So it does suggest he's getting more comfortable and he's more willing to do things with his legs as well. So that means he's building, and we're getting him strong at just the right time of the season, I think. So
absolutely. I totally agree, mate. It's like with this now part of the season where you expect to see the injuries starting to creep in, and that we seem to be kind of maintaining, if not getting guys coming back into the fold and stuff like that. So from the shaky start of the season where we weren't too sure who our O line was going to be, blah 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 blah. We're now in this position now. We've got players coming back. We've got players that are actually coming back from injury now starting to kind of like build up their confidence and going. And yes, we just saw that, Brian. We have just announced that Terrell Basham has been released, so we did notice that. So we did bring that in as breaking news earlier. Um, but finally, before we move on to the defense, I know I just mentioned like CD Lamb and Michael Gallup there, but our offensive line gave Dak um, oh, I mean, almost a perfect game. There was some false starts there and there and stuff like that. But again, I think our blocking has fundamentally so much improved in the
Yep.
past 2 weeks, tenfold. Um,
Amazingly, Zach Martin got another holding call, but he's still got less holding calls in his career than he has Pro Bowl appearances.
yeah,
But and as I say, I think Tyler Smith, whether it's the only having 3 days from between the two games, but he did have struggles, as did Tyler Biadasz, I would say as well. He wasn't as strong in this game, but again, it could be fatigue.
it could be.
Um,
I
you
mean,
you don't know you don't know as well. I mean, obviously there was an illness going around the defensive side of
that's
the
right.
room.
Yeah.
Is there something that the offense hasn't been hit as badly, but they're still feeling some symptoms as well? You don't know, but perhaps that had an effect on it. We'll see how they bounce back this week against the Colts.
Well, good thing against this game against the Colts, we have more time to recover this week. But obviously, because we played the first day, we've got those extra 2.5 days, essentially, or
Yeah.
3 days, or whatever it is. But yeah, I'll be at the game on Sunday. So if you see a guy wearing a kilt, come say hi. All right. So, and I'll be at the Texans game as well. But anyway, so with that being said, let us jump into the defense. So defense. General thoughts, Lon?
I thought they did fantastically. To be honest, they managed to keep Saquon Barkley under control. In fact, and as a result, you were looking that maybe Daniel Jones was going to escape the pocket, but I think the one or two times where Daniel Jones, they almost had Donovan Wilson as a bit of a spy, and Donovan Wilson came up, and Daniel Jones saw it and threw the ball away effectively. So
Yeah.
um, they kept him under control, and the only one who was really got, I think he got 6.2 yards a carry was Gary Brightwell, who I think their sort of third string running back.
Yes.
Which
Yeah.
if
He
you
averaged. Yeah.
if you're set up to key if you're set up to key one or two players, then you're always going to be susceptible to somebody that you haven't got a lot of videotape on.
Yeah. Like so. Just to kind of run through the Giants rushing. Barkley was 39 yards with an average of 3.5 with a touchdown. Gary Brightwell 31 yards with 6.2 average with a longest being 15 yards. Daniel Jones to me is the biggest factor, I think, because he terrorized us with the escaping the pocket where the rushing yards after that. Like, so it might necessarily be more of a pass play that he was initially of, but because we're so aggressive in the defensive front, our front four and even our linebackers can be that too eager to hit those gaps, it just opens it can potentially open up the door for like Daniel Jones to escape and run upfield to gain those yards. So I'm really happy we managed to contain him down in that perspective to only 14 yards. And finally Mike Breda, who only came in for 2 snaps, just got 6 yards. So but in total, the New York Giants only gained 90 rushing yards. So from the run defense perspective, that is a good day in the books. If we can keep it under 100 for the whole overall team, that is great. That's good work. So,
Yeah,
uh, and looking at their wide receivers and stuff like that, they are a total of 228 yards, still lower than Dallas from their 261. Um, but the biggest guy was on their roster for making the plays was Darius Slayton. So who was 63 yards, 21 yards per average with a youngest of 44, which was a big play to be fair. They
yeah,
there was times we did kind of like switched off a little bit from the secondary point of view, but let's just kind of look into how we did those. So, our biggest tackler was Leighton Vander Esch with 8 total tackles, with 5 of them being solo. Trayvon Diggs was 7, 6 solo. Damone Clark, which I'm thrilled to see with everything, how he's just came like we did not expect him to play even a snap of football this year. He was pretty
Yep.
much going to be a 2023 guy, but he's came in halfway through the season and he's producing and he's made some good plays in that game. But I think the biggest one to really mention is obviously Micah Parsons.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's so easy. Well, for me, it's easy to say he has to be defensive player of the year. He has to be at this rate.
He does, because I mean, obviously our defense wouldn't be half the defense without his sacks anyway. But just the fact that he's getting all these sacks is actually making teams key against him, and allowing the others to step up as well. So Dorrance Armstrong got another sack this week as well. So Micah Parsons is actually putting everybody on his back, and basically, he's making everybody that much better. So, and it's the same. You see, Aaron Donald, the Rams. Everybody schemes against Aaron Donald, and it allows other players to
Yeah,
flash. But when the game's on the line, I mean, obviously, Micah Parsons came into this game. He hadn't recorded a sack against any of the NFC East teams this year. He'd been sackless against New York, Washington, and Philadelphia. And he was sure as hell not going to let that happen this game. So, and
absolutely not.
it's interesting that he either gets 2 sacks or he gets 0 sacks this season.
Yeah, I
Um,
don't think there's been one game this year where he's only got a single sack. I don't believe. I think it's always
it's
been it's
Yep.
either 2 or 3. I mean,
I
when
think he's actually. I think it's six
he's
six games with 2.
yeah, and I think he's tied with DeMarcus Ware.
Yeah,
So he just needs another like another 2 sacks per game, and he's now got the franchise record in terms of the multiple sacks per game in a season. And
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 he's
and
actually moving in on. There's a
I,
Reggie White record as well.
there's the Reggie White, who is the overall NFL record. I think has his 8 games.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so I mean, we're only halfway through the season, only halfway, and we've got like the Colts, we've got the Texans, we've got Jacksonville, we've got the Titans, we've got the Eagles again, and we've got Washington. So, um, it's very, very possible that Parsons can set a lot of NFL records this year, possibly.
Yep.
I mean, he already is already. I think he's like, in terms of his first 2 years, he's already kind of, oh God, what's the Giants player again? LT.
Lawrence Taylor.
Like,
Yep.
I think he's almost he's almost like he's beat him in some statistics and some things and some not, but and this is only like 1.5 seasons so far, so it'll be very interesting to see how end of the season plays out for Parsons. But also in terms of the sack number count, Mr. Dorrance Armstrong gets on the sack count as well, and this is a guy that we were like, this is one of Jerry's guys that, especially like me and Mike, we're like, why do we keep him on board? Because we know like he has potential, but it just seemed like the years prior, he's never lived up to those expectations. But this year since Randy Gregory's left, he's flourishing and he's taken every opportunity, not just on defense, but even on special teams.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think with him, it was always very difficult. He was coming in as a sort of third down rusher, or a spot rusher. So he wasn't. It takes, certainly for me, whenever I was coming on to play defense, it took me at least 2 or 3 snaps to get into the game,
Yeah,
get into the flow of it. And if you're constantly coming in, playing 2 snaps, and then being subbed off because the guy in front of you is fresh again, you're not getting the opportunities. I think he's getting the opportunities these last 2 years. The sack numbers have come up, and it's not just the sacks he's doing. He's stripping the ball off running backs. He's recovering the ball. He's blocking kicks. He's making a name for himself, and I'm just
absolutely.
glad just glad it's a multi-year deal that he signed. Otherwise,
He would, he would,
that'd be
he
another
would
one
be,
that Jerry's got to dip into.
Yeah,
into
yeah.
the
Well,
coffers for.
oh, well, exactly, and not to mention as well, for likes of Lawrence Armstrong, whenever he is on the field, he is always he's hitting his gap assignment very, very effectively. Like you don't normally do see the run game um hit towards his gap because he seems to be at the right place, and you see like some running backs having to force themselves to move into a different gap where they're going to meet like your Neville Gallimore, your also the resort, or might have to completely flip side it to the weak side or strong side. I do apologize. That's where Demarcus Lawrence is. And but
Yep.
Even though Lawrence had a really quiet game, but he still showed why people do not want to run the ball against him. Like
Yeah.
he's there, like hitting your gap assignment, even though you might be set out on the edge, but he's still coming back inside to the B gap, or yeah, the B gap. Sorry, he's still there. He's still there doing his job, and I think there was one thing that we did so well was like on the week, like depending who was on the weak side, we did the containment of like any of the run play option or anything like that. We managed to neutralize that very effectively in that game.
Yeah, and I mean Demarcus Lawrence, obviously, he was there or thereabouts as well. He was getting pressure. Daniel Jones wasn't comfortable in the pocket most of the day.
Yep.
And that obviously shows that he only completed some just over 50% of his passes.
So Daniel Jones went for
I think it was
21
21 or
5.
35.
Yep, yeah, we're 228 yards, 6.5 average with one touchdown. Got sacked 3 times with a quarterback rating of 61.7. I mean, looking at that stat line, it's not a bad stat line for Daniel Jones, and I'll give him the benefit of doubt here, but he did make some good plays against us, especially going down in the seam in the middle. Like he did look towards that Lawrence Cager guy, like down the middle, the backup
Yep,
tight end.
yep,
Even though it was one reception, but he seemed to be the most effective. They were really effective was the throwing the ball down the middle rather than down the actual at the sideline. So I thought that was quite interesting to see how that panned out. Because if that's one, because I think that's just down to how aggressive we were in terms of the blitz. If we push one linebacker to go down to the line of scrimmage, that just leaves open that gap for the ball to be dropped down into the middle there. So, um, but yes, but I'll leave this one over for you, Lauren, as our secondary. Giving me your overall thoughts, how our secondary performed, and is there anything that you might want to highlight on that, good or bad?
Well, obviously it was a quiet day for Trayvon Diggs. Obviously he got 7 tackles, but they weren't throwing the ball in his direction really. The big play obviously was given up by Anthony Brown. Other than the fact that Anthony Brown wasn't looking and therefore couldn't jump up at the same time, but we're not. Anthony Brown, unfortunately, is always going to get picked on because he is the number 2 cornerback, and they're not going towards Diggs anymore. So he's
Yeah.
always going to be the guy that they're going to look for, and they're going to try and get some sort of mismatch on him.
I will say this though, I would still rather have Anthony Brown in as my number two than I would Kelvin Joseph. I
Yep.
will.
And
Yep.
I mean, Kelvin Joseph was inactive because he had the flu. You didn't see Nashawn Wright playing that much other than on special teams.
Yeah,
Um,
I think he did contribute into the game. He did make one solo tackle in the game, the Sean Wright.
yep,
Yep.
yep.
So
But I mean, that catch that Slayton made again, I thought it was interesting that this was the OBJ Bowl as it had been tagged, and it was very similar. It was running down the sideline. It was at or in the end zone, and it took a one-handed leap and catch to actually make the play as well. So um, there's not a hell of a lot Anthony Brown could have done, but it maybe is something they are targeting him, and you know, uh, on the instances where the pass rush aren't getting home, then if you go up against an all-pro offensive line and the pass rush isn't getting home, then that whoever that quarterback is going to be able to take Anthony Brown to school. To be honest, so It is a concern, but as long as this defense is playing the way it is, it should be a minimal concern.
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it this week, and you know what our infamous Mike likes to do. He likes to throw wee interesting wee statistics out the blue from there to there. Um, so where would you say who is the number one team in the NFL right now with the least amount of points against? And it's not Dallas, but guess who is number one? Guess is number one, but guess where Dallas is in terms of where they're positioned. What do you think is number one right now?
I think Dallas is something like number two.
Correct.
Um,
Yeah, so Dallas is
and
number two with 187 points against them.
yeah, and I want to say it's something like the 49ers are probably the number one.
Spot on, absolute spot
Yep.
on. So it's only by 8 points. No, sorry.
Yep.
Yeah, no, wait, let me just double check. So Dallas Cowboys are 187 and San Francisco are 173. So it's actually more than so it's 14
14,
points.
14 points.
Yeah, so 2 touchdowns of a difference between the two top defenses in the NFL in terms of points against them. And I mean, and in terms of like the NFC, our division NFC beast right now, which and
Yep.
another one as well as things stand, every team in the NFC East will be in the playoffs. That is crazy to
Yeah, it
think
is.
that. Like the one everyone slated for years as the NFC least, now is the NFC beast now.
Yeah. And I mean, we're not, every team is 2 games over 500. So, that just goes to show that everybody's playing strong. So, there's there's no room for let up this season. I mean,
Yep.
we're 2 games back on Philadelphia at the moment. That potentially, I don't. Philadelphia obviously have had a few kinks exposed the last couple of weeks. They need to try and work on things. They are beatable, I think.
Yeah.
They were one play away from losing to the Colts. Um,
And
and
that Green Bay game was quite I didn't watch all of the game, but it was a chess match in that, especially in that first half. But
yeah,
I didn't watch the second because it was like 2 o'clock in the morning here in the UK. So I just decided just to like call it quits and just go and watch just go to my bed. But when I saw the final result, I was just like, oh no. So but like you're kind of saying there that they are beatable. They do
yeah,
have holes in their game. It's just a matter how we're going to utilize that. But kind of go back to our defense though. Um, I'm just trying to think in terms of a grade. If I was to kind of grade our defense overall in terms of their scheme and stuff like that, I'd still kind of believe that we kind of let our foot off the pen in that second half, like that fourth quarter, essentially, to let them become
yeah,
within 8 points. I'm going to give them an A minus on this game in terms of grade.
yeah. I'd certainly give an A minus as well. Maybe a little bit lower, maybe even a B plus. I think. There wasn't a hell of a lot of things that they did wrong, but obviously, we gave up 20 points. I'm just happy that the Giants didn't go for two because I had the Cowboys at 7.5 on one of my bets as well. So
Hey,
um,
there we go. There we go.
I actually caught. I was a perfect 3 for 3 on Thursday night. So I had the Lions to lose by less than 9. I had the Cowboys to win by 7.5, and I had Minnesota to win by 2.5. So I was about 40 quid up on Thursday night. So
Good stuff. I'm just going to throw in one more statistic before we jump into special teams. As um, uh, Daisy Dogs just asked about the points differential for Dallas. We're definitely best in the NFC East with 92 points plus, with the Eagles being 87 plus. But I think we're second overall, and the team that is number one is the Buffalo Bills with 110. That's a massive points difference. So,
yep,
um, mean, I mean, the Bills have been on fire, but in terms of that, it's if we can just kind of keep going this route of where we are right now, just be that consistent going across the rest of the season, I think anything's possible this year. And especially how the playoff picture looks for the NFC right now, every single one of those teams are definitely beatable. Every
Yep.
one of them. Like, because as of right now, it'd be let me just
I
name
think it's
list.
Tampa Bay would go to. Um,
So I'm just trying to think. So Philadelphia would play New York because they would be last in terms of the wild card. No,
well,
no, 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 no.
Philip,
Sorry.
yeah,
It'll be Minnesota. Sorry, Philadelphia get the
yep,
bye. It'd be
yep.
Minnesota playing New York. We would play Tampa, and I believe who's the other one? So San Francisco would play Washington, I believe.
Yep. Yep.
Yes, I think that's the order. I don't quote me on that. I'm just trying to remember it top of my head there, but it's crazy to think that because I think that the biggest worry out of that those teams might be San Francisco. If I'm being perfectly honest, um,
Yes.
like Minnesota, like we really definitely exposed them in that game. Philadelphia, I think now playing them at home and Christmas Eve will be a big, massive deciding factor. If we can beat them, then for sure, then I think we can all start to get our expectations that little bit higher. So, but we don't want to jump the gun like we always do within Cowboys Nation. We get our hopes up so quickly, like we uh, put everything heart on our sleeve pretty much, and just say, "No, we're gonna win it. We're gonna win it." I'm still being quite conservative in that remark. I don't want to say
Yeah.
that we're going to win it because I still think the consistency is still a major issue going forward.
I'm going with the advice that Brad Sham gave us last year when he was on the
Yep,
show, that
game by game.
take it
Yep,
game by game.
yep,
Um,
yeah. Big
and
shout out to the voice of the star, Mr. Brad Sham. We miss you, my good sir. We miss you.
yep,
Right.
need to
Yeah,
get you back
yeah,
on soon.
yes, we do. We need to get you back on. So before we kind of go and finish off, we'll just jump quickly onto special teams and we'll call that our show. So let's just kind of do that. As you can see here at the bottom of our screen, Brett Maher was 0 for 1 for field goals. But he did make all of his PATs, and likes of Brian Anger, just one punt in the game, one punt with 51 yards.
Yep.
Again, this kind of shows how much our offense was just managing to keep the ball in possession. I don't have the statistic in terms of time of possession that we had, but it was not like 60 to nearly 70% we had possession of the ball throughout that game.
It was 34 minutes, I think. So yeah, we were over we were over 50%.
So you're talking about between the 55 and 60% mark we had possession of the
Yeah.
ball.
Yep.
So
Which is yeah. I mean, the main thing is as long as your defense is on the field less than your offense is, that's always a plus. That means that these guys they're getting the rest and they can go out and attempt to, they're getting the guys off the field for a start, but it's also meaning that they're able to get a rest and continue going out and harassing them. Um,
oh, sorry, I did forgot to mention that. Yes, we are the number one pass rushing defense. We are number one leading in sacks, and we are. I think we're top three in pretty much everything defensively. Maybe no, I don't know about secondary, mind you, but in terms of like, God, I might be talking a lot of porkies right now,
I
but
think I think obviously our run defense is the only thing that we're probably fairly low in.
that has
Um,
improved in the past 2 weeks
yes, yeah,
by a long mile. Like I don't know, like I don't think the Hankins signings drastically improved us that much, but I don't know what Dan Quinn and Aiden Durden has done, but it's clicking. Like we're hitting it. Like we're not seeing so much on the inside run. Most of the runs are now going over to the outside. We're seeing like a LVE help covering up those yards and not with is next to zero gains nowadays. So, but yeah, but going back to special teams quickly before we finish up, and before we finish up, we'll read up some more comments before we finish up. But I mean, we're the field goal from Maher was a bit of a surprise, but we can let him off with that one, considering
Yeah,
how well he's played all year. A guy that we did not think, it's like, why did we bring him back? Who's completely transformed himself since we let him go a couple of years ago. He's came back. He's went for I don't know. He's went for like a kicking coach or something like that. We don't know, but whatever he's done, it's working, and we can probably just try and forget that field goal. But in terms of his PATs and stuff like that, it's been great. So
yep,
if we can just keep that up, and again, once again, Brian Anger has been great. Um, in terms of Turpin, though, we're still haven't got that touchdown yet. It will happen. It will. I think everyone is basically nearly every week they're putting like a bet slip on for Devante Turpin to score a touchdown on kickoff, so or punt return. So I mean, the odds are great. Like if you're doing it maybe like $5, £10, or whatever you want to put a wager on, it's definitely worth something to put a bet on every week because it's that close of happening. So
yeah, yeah. I mean, he's the number of times he's been one tackle away from it, and it's normally been the kicker either riding them out of bounds or just in the case of Jamie Gillan, obviously ex-rugby player across here.
yeah,
He's not afraid to mix it up like most punters are.
yeah.
Um,
Just for context, in case anyone's wants, so the punter for the New York Giants, and me and Lauren have a bit of, well, not so much he's a Giants player, but because he's where he's from our neck of the woods up here in Scotland, and it's just great to see Scottish players actually in the NFL, knowing that anyone can be part in the league. So it's like because it
as,
is.
as is their field goal kicker as well. Their field goal kickers from
Yeah,
Arbroath as well. So
Graham Granot. So they've got two Scottish players in that New York Giants squad. But anyway, we don't really necessarily care about the Giants, but we just wanted to kind of highlight that it's just like because we kind of take pride in that. So, but anyway,
yeah,
but finally, we'll just kind of jump through these comments, and we'll pay the bills, and we'll tell you our pre-game show will be for Against the Colts will be on Thursday, hosted by Mike. I'm not sure we do have a special guest. I found we might have one lined up.
yep,
I can't be too sure, but but be sure to tune in on Thursday. But before we jump off, let's bring up the comments. So Labastri's asking us, are you all as confident as I am as we will own the Eagles? If we can perform like we did against the Vikings, yes. I'm just not sure about us being consistent. That's my only concern.
yep. We have the capability. It's just putting it all together on the day of the game. That's the only thing, and eliminating these mistakes that we seem to make that
Yep.
shoot ourselves in the foot.
Yep. So DG Dogs just said Jonathan Taylor, the Eagles, and Derek Henry are still left in the schedule. Out of those, I'm probably more worried about Derek Henry the most. Jonathan Taylor's still a good running back, but he's not been as effective. Like I think he's just came back from injury as well. So
Yep,
I think he's still trying to find his feet at this moment. So and we're playing him this weekend coming. So I don't expect us to I don't expect Jonathan Taylor to have a massive game on us away from home against us. But I agree, the Eagles, that it's going to be a tough game. I can admit that. But Derek Henry, I think, is going to be the more one we've got to worry about. And finally, Elizabeth Richardson. Everyone knows how quick he is. It's not going to happen. Just like Diggs, they won't throw that in his direction. So I think she's reflecting on the whole Anthony Brown, I believe. So if I get your comment wrong, Elizabeth, please rectify me on that. I want to make sure I've got your comment and context correctly. But yes, so with that being said, like I said, so we're going to finish up for this evening. Thank you for all you guys for swinging by. We're going to pay off the bills in a wee second, but be sure to come by on Thursday, same time, 9 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Central time in the US, for the pre-game show against the Indianapolis Colts with Mike hosting. I won't be on there because obviously I'll be traveling. Not to rub it in, I had to say it. Because I'll be on my plane flying for that game. But yes, so she's referring to the Devante Turpin touchdown. Got you right. I
Yep.
understand. Right, got you now. Awesome. Right, thank you for that clarification there, Elizabeth. Much appreciate you. Joe from Italy, great show, guys, tonight. Good night. Guys, be sure. This is what I keep saying. It's like all corners of the world do watch this now. We've got Joe from
Yep.
Italy. We've got you guys, some guys in the US. We've got some guys watching from Canada. We've got some guys watching here in the UK. As like, and this is why, like, we'll mention like so the shout outs and stuff like that. Why me and my co-host Meg Murray do the world's team, because essentially that's what the Dallas Cowboys is now. We are the world's team. So now saying that, let's go and pay off the bills. So Lauren, do you want to take this one over?
Yep. So if you're going to a game like Paul is this weekend, not that I'm jealous or anything, obviously be sure to book through Cowboys Experience for the ultimate meet and greets. As you saw last Thursday on our pre-game show, you saw the craziness that was going on there. The stadium tours, the game tickets, tailgating, get to meet guys like Micah Parsons, Zach Martin, Drew Pearson, Jay Novacek. They've got the USA cheerleaders there as well. So that's something for everybody. There's lots of competitions going on during the pre-game meets as well. You know, get in contact with them. They'll treat you like royalty. Tell them that we sent you. So mention UK Cowboys, and you'll get.
You get free stuff, folks. And when I buy main free stuff, you get like a goodie bag with like signed magazines, signed photos, and stuff like that. So be sure to take up on that opportunity. And but yeah, in regards to the show last week, we did had a big special guest to come onto the show, but because of how busy the Cowboys experience meet and greet was, unfortunately, the time constraints and stuff like that, we didn't manage to. And we will get Sam Williams on this show some point this year. We will promise you that. So we will have him on at another time. So we do apologize from last week, because as you may have noticed, it was a bit of a like because the audio, the DJ sound and stuff like that. So we do apologize in that. So it was kind of out of our control, but Barry from Cowboys Experience will help us out with that, and we will get someone onto the show, and we'll fire some questions off to him and that, and we'll talk about how he thinks the season's going and that. But finally, like I've mentioned before, you can go follow our fellow content creators like from DallasCowboys.com. We're talking Cowboys, hanging with the boys, the break, big shots, etc. And you can also follow me and Meg on blogging the boys at SB Nation, doing the World's team. You can also see like a big game James, J Tucks, Cowboys fans only, CFO Sports. Go to see Nix and Spinny at Pick Six Sports. Cowboys Y'all with Bluff City Cowboys and the guys from Canada, Cowboys Can Fan. They just released a video of their experience being at the Thanksgiving game and at the Minnesota game. Be sure to go and check it out. Great watching them having a great time, and also I'll be doing my own video documentary for my trip for this year as well, to kind of help cover for like the international fans, like so flight prices, ticket prices, experience factors, my overall thoughts, this and that. So it's just to kind of help you guys if you're planning going to a Cowboys game, to give you like what to expect. So but yes, with that being said, we'll see you guys on Thursday. And Lauren, give us a wee sign off.
Yep. So safe travels, Paul. Bring back a win, otherwise you'll be escorted to the airplane straight after the game on Sunday. And I'll catch you guys on Thursday night.
See you in Dallas, folks. Woo!